Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, host of the Open Line Garden Show and host of the Garden Show on CFBU 103.7 every Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Growing gladiolas. Gladiolas are a flower that come in a multitude of colors, and they add cheer to each and every table or arrangement that you make. Gladiolas are planted with the corms, obviously points up, and you want to normally plant them about 2 weeks before the last frost. This year, with the weather being so cold and the ground so cold, I would probably back that up to 7 to 10 days before the last frost. You then go and plant succession planting of the gladiolas every 7 days, up until I would say the beginning of June. Probably maybe even get away with the end of the first week of June. What will then happen is you'll have succession bloom on your gladiolas throughout the whole summer. Now, gladiolas grow in a garden soil that is sandy. It is best if it's a nice, rich, organic, sandy loam soil. It likes to be kept moist. And, of course, we need to plant them in full sun. You want to plant them 3 to 6 inches deep and about the same distance apart. If you're using them for cut flowers, and this is what I recommend, then you want to cut the blooms in early morning as soon as the color shows on the flowers. You then place them and plunge the cut stems into deep, cool water. Now, the plant always has at least 4 leaves left on it. This is in order for the gladiola corm to build up its reserves for next year throughout the rest of the summer. Now, once you've got that done, you've got strong corms developing, you want to make sure that when you do harvest them, I always pull the top bud out. Now, what that does is usually it makes the flowers all sort of ripen much closer together so that you get a bigger show, maybe not over as long a period of time. But I think it's a better show and a better looking group of flowers. The corms of the glads are, of course, not frost tolerant. They will freeze, they will die. So in the fall, you want to dig them up and you want to dry them well. Once they're really, really dry, I like to lay them out on the warm days on concrete, and this sort of finishes them all off and dries the corms. I always remove a little bit of the excess skins on the corms, not a lot, just some, simply because that's where a lot of insects and disease will overwinter. You then want to store them in, I like, a nice onion or net bag, high, where it's dry and cool. So, next season, you have good, strong plants and corms to go and plant in the spring. So, that's how you do it, and it's easy enough. They're not that expensive and always fun. Now, if you want a plant that's going to give you great show through the summer, you want lilies. Now, the nice thing is with lilies, they stay in the ground. Now, lilies can be planted as early as possible in the spring, or they can be planted in the fall. In the fall, you do want to mulch. Now, this is to provide extra winter protection. Rules for growing lilies are, and this is key, good drainage. You want good, rich, moist, well-drained soil. If you don't have it, you're trying to grow it on blue clay, forget it. Go plant something else, like lily of the valley, okay? So once this is done and you're planted, you want to plant them at least 6 to 7 inches deep in the light sandy soil. And I always work in lots of organic matter, preferably peat moss. You space the lilies about 8 to 12 inches apart. And you want to make sure that in the spring and throughout the summer, there are no weeds that do develop around it to attract predator insects and disease, but also to rob them of moisture and food. So it's important that you keep them under mulch throughout that time period. It makes it a lot easier to control weeds in your lily beds. And you do want to plant as many as possible. Now, you can have early, mid-season, and late lilies. There can be lilies that are very short, 18 inches tall. There can be lilies that are going to get 6, 7, and 8 feet tall. So, pick the blooming time, the color, and the height of the lilies for where they're going to be planted. Obviously, the shorter lilies are towards the front of a mixed border, where the taller ones can be up against a wall where they may need some support. And a giant tomato cage works extremely well, particularly the 2-ring ones that are adjustable. So try those, and that may keep them a little tighter and a little neater. Remember that the pollen on lilies stains, and it stains good, okay? So if you want the lilies to last a little longer, particularly if you happen to have a Easter lily in the house, as you open up, you reach in and you gently pull the pollen-laden anthers off. Why? Because they stain the flower as well. When you're finished doing this, of course, your fingers will be stained yellow, and don't get it on any of your clothes because it's hard to get out, particularly on some of the cottons. Now, you've got them growing in full sun, but they don't like hot noon sun. So full sun, but not the midday sun. If you can do morning sun or afternoon sun, that is actually better for lilies. Keep them moist and, of course, deadhead. Now, when you deadhead, you're just taking off the individual flowers and you're making sure that they don't go to seed. This allows more food to go into the ground. When you are feeding them, and this is usually done after they finish blooming, if it's early in the season, but throughout the season, if you don't overdo it, you should be good. The best time, though, is in early spring. The fertilizer, low in nitrogen, a little higher in the phosphorus, and of course, high in the last number. Always important. Now, follow the directions for the fertilizer on the bag for your plants, because fertilizers are all made differently. Generally, the fertilizer that you're going to be using is going to be in a proportions of 1, 2, 3. And that should help. As you're removing all the dead flowers, you'll find finally that there are none left. What are you going to do? You're going to watch the stem slowly yellow. As it yellows and dies back down, you can snip just the yellow part off. You want to keep the leaves going and feeding the lily bulbs for as long as possible, and make sure that they then build lots of food for the coming years. Remember, lilies hate wet, poor drained feet. It's the easiest way to lose your lilies. Listen every Saturday morning from 8 till 9 on CFBU 103.7 for more on gardening. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.